One's ready. Go!
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. It's Trent here with Jared. If you're not tracking, we got a little bit of feedback saying maybe we should put our intros in the beginning of these podcasts so people know who they're listening to. Trent Segmiller, retired E8 out of Special Operations Weather and Special Reconnaissance. Jared Peaches Petrus, retired Chief Master Sergeant, officially now Combat Controller. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
How's it feel, Jared?
It's weird, man. It's super weird. The last day of active duty was really weird, and the first day of retirement was really weird. And it's one of those things where I don't really know how to feel.
I feel it's like a lot of the things in your career where Hollywood and people talking about things and like you're like, should I feel a certain way? It's such like a mind thing. This is gonna go public, so I'm gonna watch my mouth. But yeah, it's like, who am I? Am I supposed to not know who I am now? Like,
yeah, and it's it's weird because has it been my identity for 25 years? I mean, yeah. I don't know if it's been my identity, but it's definitely been what I've done. And there's something to be said about like moving, right? Let's just say where you're going to live, right? You can literally live wherever you want now. Whereas sometimes having so much options is actually more like it's worse. Whereas if it's like, hey man, there's 5 places we could go, or hey, if I position myself or if I do this one thing, I can kind of manipulate the next assignment and then I can go where I want there, So it's in that regard, it might be easier, right? Also, it's also pretty easy to just go where you're told. Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna go here.
Just make the best of it, and now you have to make the thing that you're going to make the best of. Like,
yeah, So it's but it's a good thing. I am cognizant of all the kind of decline kind of stuff where people can have a tendency when they retire to spiral out of control in terms of depression and loss of identity and all that kind of stuff. But like I don't believe I'm at a threat for that. So like whatever.
I don't think so. I mean, I know for me it was weird for a little bit, but once I stopped worrying about it, like it takes a while to make things normal, right? Just like your brain has to be like, hey, I don't have an official PT test anymore. Like, hey man, like why am I holding on to all these uniforms? Like do I need 18 different sets of multicams and different variations and all this other stuff? So it is weird, and honestly, I was surprised at how much my mind needed to sift through. Like, it wasn't all like negative, but like, like you do it for 20 years, you do it for 25 years, and it's just a lot. You don't realize how much of your life it is, I think, or I didn't, right? Like, because I'm like a whatever guy, and then like it's gone, and you're like, oh, like I just have to like figure life out now. But I thought it was pretty rad eventually. But like, yeah, there's a little bit of whoop in the beginning.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not like I'm sitting here going like, oh no, who am I now? Because for sure,
you're yelling at Donna, who am I?
Yeah, what am I now? But I mean, even if I did, like, I'd ping you guys, and you guys would definitely be like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, what, So
but doing the podcast is like a huge help, I think, for us, because there's at least that we have that consistency, that thread that pulled all the way through. When you're still doing the podcast, you're still talking about this stuff, and obviously we're still connected to the community, whether we want to be or not. Our buddies are still going to hit us up when we release a podcast and tell if it was garbage or if it was good and give us their opinions. So it's like you never really leave, especially since we're like the front facing, media arm of Air Force Special Warfare and the Air Force to a certain extent, writ large. So yeah, we're not leaving. We're just not coming to work anymore in uniform.
The Air Force fixed the glitch, basically. Just stop paying us.
I did want to ask about that. I know we didn't cover a sponsor. I guess we'll just do a pre-run or whatever, pre-roll.
No, man. We'll just go right into freaking CardoMax.
Oh,
right?
Card.
If you guys haven't done CardoMax.com, promo code one's ready to get yourself some caffeine, immune boost, and hydration straight to
Sean,
your
send me some
freaking
more.
dome. Yeah, Sean, what's up, dude? Send us more.
Ugh. Seals are
Ugh,
so unreliable. Ugh. I'm just kidding, Sean. I love you.
too busy writing books. But cardomax.com, achieve your max, use promo code one's ready. Yeah, what was that?
I drink it every morning. Even I mix it with my creatine. So like I don't like take pre-workout all the time or whatever, but if I need like a little energy boost in the morning, like and I try to take my creatine every day. It's great for mixing with other, flavors. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, earlier I was just going to say, so when you leave the Air Force, I think I was thinking about this earlier today. Like in the training environment, if you graduate a course, I'm assuming if you graduate one of the weapons school courses, you get like a survey at the end. Do you guys do
Mhm.
stuff like that? Like, hey, how was it? Blah blah blah. And I was like, well, as me leaving the Air Force, I didn't get a survey, but as a retired chief master sergeant that's done as much as you, did you get like a hey, how did we do survey on
No,
your way out the door?
no, uh, not from there. What as an organization, what we do is we kind of outbrief, as you're leaving. Um, Mine was I outbriefed with the wing command chief, but that's really about it. Uh, because the weapons school commandant, he knows where I sit and how I feel because we were a command team. So I was very open and honest with him, just like he was with me. And he knows, the love that I have for the weapons school, for the Air Force, for Air Force Special Warfare and all that kind of stuff. So i- if you're going to outbrief me and go like, hey, how things were, I'm like, oh, dude, they were freaking awesome. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
But what if there had been a survey that come down from the Department of the Air Force or Headquarters Air Force or whatever and said, Chief, looking back at your career and where things are right now and the direction that we're headed, uh, do you have any advice for us for the Air Force at all? And first of all, I think this would be actually fairly it would be a huge project, but like the fact that the Air Force doesn't do anything like this, like, hey, why are you getting out? Like and collecting this data and actually using it to
Yeah.
further their own ends. But if they had sent you a survey, something like that, like where is the Air Force? Are we moving in the right direction? Based on your 25 years of experience, like, do you have any advice for, the Air Force leadership? I know how I feel about the L word, but the folks in charge and the direction that everything is headed.
I mean, yeah, there's probably lots. I guess the biggest thing, and I'm gonna kind of tie it into what happened with me, right? And again, I did not leave or retire from the Air Force like upset or like, dude, I'm so excited to be getting out, like deuces or anything like that, right? Um, I would essentially still be in too if they had kind of played ball with me, right?
Hmm.
So, and uh, I fully
I'm
acknowledge like
glad they
this,
didn't. By the way, I'm glad they didn't
yeah,
play ball with you and you had to get out.
so maybe this is a well, fine. You're not going to do my way, so I'll just take my ball and go home. Maybe it is some of that. I don't know. Um, I'd like to think that after 25 years, maybe it's not like that. It's just kind
Yeah.
of going like, okay, well, I'm not who you want. So here's what happened with me. So I was a group level chief master sergeant, so or a, senior enlisted leader, whatever. So in the Air Force, you have squadrons. You have different echelons of command, right? So you have squadron, you have group, you have wing, then you have MAGCOM, numbered Air Force, then MAGCOM, and so on, right? And generally, you've got a step at each one, right? Not a
Yep.
requirement. There's nothing in Air Force instructions or anything like that that says that you have to. Um, there's plenty of people. TJ Ganell, he went from not even at a squadron to boom wing. He skipped squadron and group to go take a wing.
But didn't he go to DC to do the fellowship first,
Yeah, he
and
was at a
then
fellowship program for
and
sure.
it's TJ.
Yeah, I mean the dude's a straight up
But
freaking badass.
but Chief Bass was a good example, right? Because it was pretty
Right.
controversial when she went from a numbered Air Force chief position all the way up to the Chief Master Sergeant of the
Oh,
Air Force. Like that's
yeah.
very unusual.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that were upset about it, right? lot a lot
Yeah.
of chiefs that were upset about it. And
Chiefs are so
so
fun.
yeah, yeah. So what happened was, they wanted me to be a command chief, and I said, okay, cool, but I have moved a lot in the last, uh, at the time, I guess it would have been 6 years, 7 years,
Yeah.
and I said, so like, how about let's like, I would love to take over the 57th Wing. I would love to even ideally take over the 57th Wing, which holds the weapon school, holds the Thunderbirds, holds uh, Red Flag, Bamboo Eagle, Operation 57th OG, 57th Maintenance. Like it's a massive wing, right?
Yeah.
Um, with a one Sergeant Earl commander, that would have been preferred wing. Then the next, which wouldn't it kept me in place. I wouldn't have had to move. And
Right.
then the other option was the 99th Air Base Wing, which is all the kind of logistics on base, all the base services, everything like that, which is still a big wing, um, but on Nellis, so it wouldn't have required a move. And so what I was told from the excuse me, from the Chiefs group was, oh, hey, like I got it, you don't want to move, but you need to do your time at a small wing before you jump to a big wing, because the 99th and the 57th are large wings, right? And a small wing would be probably the 24th Special Operations Wing, the 492nd, like a small wing, right? That has a couple thousand people in it. Well, I was like, well, okay, but I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some learning involved, but I'm pretty sure that with all my connective tissue
Yeah.
on Nellis already, like I've already been here, I already know how Nellis works. I don't need to relearn everything that's goes on. I don't need to, I already know all the people to reach out to. Like, to me,
Yeah.
it
You have
seems
an
like a good fit.
80% solution walking in.
Right. And anything else, I've either already seen or I could learn really quick. And they were like, "Yeah, I don't think so, man. There's other chiefs that have done their time at a small wing that need to come here." And I was like, "All right, man. Well, you've told me everything I need to do, so I'll retire." And there was definitely like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
Hey. Ooh.
whoa,
Let's not
whoa,
get crazy.
yeah." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you've already communicated to me, like, you've got to hit these boxes." In my entire career, I have never ticked those boxes. Like I did not do everything. Now, some of the things I did because they were natural progression and I wanted to, but so many times did people tell you, you have to do this to get promoted. You have to do this to get this assignment. And I didn't do any of it. I did other things that I thought were more important. I focused on the mission. I focused on betterment of the community. I focused on those kind of things, and it worked out fine for me.
Right.
And so I think so tying that into your question of what would my outbrief be to the Air Force would and the leadership is stop creating these pathways and saying you've got to tick this box, you've got to do it this way, you can't take an alternative path. I'm not some unique person in the Air Force that didn't take the alternate path. There's plenty of others that have
Yeah.
taken, I mean, just TJ, right? Fellowship at the legislative liaison thing, right? And then boom, right to a wing. He did not take a traditional path.
Hmm.
So I would say embrace that more instead of just going like, you've got to do a squadron, you got to be a flight chief, then you got to be an op soup, then you got to be a squadron chief, then you got to you got to get away from that, because that is such a narrow-minded and structured mindset that in in a time that we're about to go into, in a wild time of conflict and non-conflict and uh, maybe a kind of a cold, not a cold war kind of thing, but we're going to need people that are unconventional,
Hmm.
and we should be fostering that. Um, I mean, imagine if Doolittle, right? Dude,
Yeah.
and I said this on the war room the other day, like because Doolittle raid got brought up. Like Doolittle would have been relieved of command for um what is it? Non-confidence or loss of
Uh,
confidence.
yeah,
There you go. He would have been relieved for loss of confidence for sure.
at least twice.
Yeah, like,
You know, like
and you take any of the bomber mafia folks, right? Also, pro relieved, more than likely, because we don't foster it and we don't allow people to, all right, let's get crazy with this and do it.
yeah. Well, so it begs the question: what is, the obviously being in, I heard a lot about the Chiefs group and people's opinions about the Chiefs group. So the Chiefs group, they're there to manage chief assignments and all the other stuff. Is that is that like
Yes.
their only mandate?
Yeah, and the group is the Chiefs group is kind of a misnomer, right? It's it changes, but it's usually one chief and then like a master sergeant, maybe a senior, a master sergeant, and a tech sergeant. Like
Yeah.
it's like four people, maybe that are doing all this for every single chief in the Air Force.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and so on their side, right? Like it is difficult to manage all that with that many people. Like it's funny too. Like there's like things within AFPC that don't make any sense necessarily that have huge jobs that affect a lot of people. Like the Total Force Service Center. Like when you hear that, you're like, oh man, that must be like an entire floor of people over at AFPC. They're like, nah, dude, it's like six of us. And I'm like, what? What? Like how?
yeah,
So like a little bit of sympathy on that side, but like where does you have to manage the talent, right? And I think this is where we fall short so many times is you're a chief, you're not a nobody anymore, right? And we have an organization that's set up strictly to manage that stuff. It seems like they fall back on procedure a little bit more than they do on managing talent. And even on the functional side, we saw a little bit of this as well, like the idea that you can't give someone the assignment they want, or you can't leave someone in a place for too long, or you can't, like just because it's good for them. It's like, well, I mean, this is the military, and they signed up for this, and even if this is like something that we could hook, one of the bros up with, and it makes sense, people are hesitant to do that kind of stuff because they're so worried about favoritism or whatever else it is. It probably just comes down to people not being willing to, if someone asks a question, to back up their decisions.
yeah. It, so there's, I hope I remember. I hope the TBIs don't play up too much, and I can remember this. Um, the same kind of perception in the folks that are in our community know exactly what I'm about to say in terms of the folks on Herbie that
Mhm.
somebody gets a job on Herbie, like goes to the 2-3 or something like that, and then they end up at Hurlburt Field for 13, 14 years just cycling from I'm going from the squadron to STTS, now to the group, now to the wing, now to and a lot of times they're not your senior airman staff sergeants. They're your kind of senior enlisted dudes. And it's it's wild for me because you see that and you're going like, dude, how come so and so, what do you mean you need me to go to this location? I've been on station for 3 years now or 2 years now or whatever it is. What do you mean you need you it has to be me to
Yeah.
move to this location, right? And I'll give you an example of it, right? Because it happened to me. Is
Yeah.
I'm at Tampa, I'm at SOCOM headquarters, and I've been there for 2 years. I make chief, and that requires a move. I'm like, okay, cool. The Air Force says it requires moves. Got it. Um, so they go, all right, Cannon needs a chief. You're going to Cannon, right? I was like, okay, cool. I was already in talks with the commander out there, already talking to the chief out there. I'm like, all right, well, I'm prepping and ready to go. Even though Ken Human at the time was like, dude, why are they sending you there? The 2-3 needs a chief.
Ugh.
Why are they sending you there? Like, you're already in Florida. Just, it's a quick drive and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't know, man. So he fought for me not to go to Cannon. He fought for me to go to the 2-3.
And he was
But
the AFSOC controller functional at the
right,
time,
right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, for CCT. And um so I'm like, well, and you know, the wing chief at the time was like, no, absolutely not. He's going here. So the funny thing about that, right, is they can give you orders. And this is, I know you know this, so I'm just telling it for the audience,
Yeah.
right? So you receive orders. You receive a rip, you acknowledge the rip if that's what you're going to do, and then you receive orders, right? Then once you have orders, you have to clear base. You gotta outprocess and all that kind of stuff. But before all that, one of the pieces of it is you have to clear medical, and not
Hmm.
just you, your family has to clear medical. And that program is called the Exceptional Family Member Program, EFMP. So what happens is all of your medical case, yours and your family's, goes to the gaining medical group. So it goes to Canon, right?
Hmm.
And they review, and it takes a couple weeks for them to review. I think the whole process, it used to be a 6-week process. I've been told recently that it's right around 12 now, which is crazy because
Holy,
we've
it got
extended. Yeah,
worse.
it's a long process. So, but the whole time I'm going to this location. Then the med group gives you the thumbs up. The gaining med group gives you the thumbs up, or they turn around and go, "Hey, we can't accept this person because the care that they required is either not on base or it's unavailable in town." So
Hmm.
then the assignment process has to start over again. The functional and whoever's controlling your assignments have to go, all right, well, where are we going to put him now? So
They can't force you to live in Amarillo,
no,
so like they're like,
no,
yeah, nope.
yeah. So I ended up my I didn't pass EFMP, so I ended up getting orders canceled to Canon, to which they were like, shit, where do we go? So Ken, again, the outstock functional, goes, easy, 2-3, because they need it. Nope, straight up to Washington.
Why not the 2-3?
Uh,
Did somebody have someone lined up already for that?
yes,
Okay.
already on Hurlburt Field. So
So yeah, that decision had been
yeah,
unofficially made by functional and AFPC, the assignments folks, even though so they're already hosing you, so they're like, oh, we'll just hose them some more instead of,
right,
telling this other guy it's just, been told that he's gonna get that position, um, instead of making him move.
right. And I'm not upset that I went to the 2-2. Like I said, I was all in on the 2-6 going to Canon. I was all in on the 2-3. I was all in on the 2-2. Like, it didn't matter to me. I
Yeah.
just wanted to go serve with the boys, right? Um, Now there was a lot of flail in it. Would it have been easier to just remain in Florida and just drive up the 6.5 hours? Yeah, for sure. But I only stayed at the 2-2 for 15 months anyway.
Yep.
15 months. Like,
Yep.
you know,
That was quick.
so
It's because you
that
couldn't
point,
stand Aaron? Is that what it was? That's what I
yeah,
heard. I
dude, I
heard
had
you
to
and
get
Aaron
out
just
of
couldn't
there.
get along.
We're fine if it's all like this. But as soon as Aaron starts bowing up to me and then he's looking down on me, like, yeah,
Get me out of here.
yeah, exactly. And I totally, like, I knew it. I'd forget the other point, but yeah, we got to stop with well, you got to move, and I think some of that's showing already in kind of the Korean, like I've talked about it before. The Korean accompanied tours are lengthening now to 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, I think we got to get out of the habit of moving people just to move people, because that's what we do and that's what we've always done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's silly. Like, obviously, when you made chief, it's like it's one of those things. We just didn't have a chief billet at
Hmm.
SOCOM for CCT at the time, and some of it makes sense. And I think most of the on my career field, especially the driving factor behind assignments is AATC. But typically, for like the senior enlisted chiefs on that side, like we have some guys that have been down here at the wing for a while. I think showed up as a master and now as a chief type people.
Whoa,
He might have showed up as a senior. I'm not sure, but he's
maybe a
been here for a
senior
long time.
select.
Yeah.
But even
Um,
then, even if it's a senior select, that's still 5 years.
it's a long time. Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, I'd spent the last 7-8 years of my career here in San Antonio between the squadron and then the group after I got fired and then up at the MAGCOM. So but
You just gonna
sometimes
blow
it's
right past getting fired, huh?
I mean, yeah. Where this episode's about you. So sometimes it is just math, but sometimes it is that those like, hey, well, you have to have this. We don't view people as as a talent to be nurtured and to squeeze all the juice out of that as we possibly can, right? Like, what are we going to get from Chief Petrus if we leave him on Nellis versus what do we get if we force him to move? You know, and what they ended up with is one less chief. That's what they ended up with.
Right. Yeah. And to be fair to, or to try and be bipartisan on it, I guess. Like I oof, boy, with functionals and AFPC, right? Because you have you have open and vacant billets that you've got to fill. You have units that are hurting for bodies. When you're dealing with so many people, to be able to cater to every single person's needs is damn near impossible, right? But it's also weird when you have somebody who has X location on their wish list, their vector, right, that they want to go to, and then you have this person that has a different location, and then they end up going to each other's locations instead of the ones that they actually wanted to, with the
Yep.
same exact qual, same exact rank, and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, dude, how, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this happened. This is one of the reasons why my wife retired too, right? Like, she was like, "Hey, like Trent's gonna retire. Just give me a year." And they were like, "Nope." Like, a new assignments team showed up. They're like, "You have to go to the Pentagon and you have to go to this course. And here's your next 5 years. There's a four moves in the next 5 years, and then we'll drop you all at Hurlburt or wherever." And she did the same thing. She's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna retire." And then all of a sudden, like,
Whoa!
we get a whole bunch of phone calls, people offering her jobs all over the place. She's like, "I already made my decision, guys." I mean, the North Carolina job offer was, we thought about that one for a little bit because they're like, we can hire your husband up here too. We have a position, we'll put him in. We're like, maybe we should stay in and go, but then like, we're never going to see our kids again if we do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just doesn't. I think, if I had to guess, I think the Chiefs group exists to keep, because like all the folks that typically make most of the decisions about assignments are the Chiefs in the career fields. And it's probably just to keep that from turning into a good old boys club, the nepotism type thing.
Yeah.
But to me, like, nobody knows their career field better. Nobody knows the assignments better than the functionals do. And I think the Chiefs group has just gotten a little too powerful in what they are able to do. I think if they were just another branch of government with a veto power, that would be fine. They just have to approve it. Otherwise, just to make sure that, combat controllers are not just hooking up like these three chiefs and these other two are getting
Yeah.
hosed unnecessarily. But it just seems like that's my biggest gripe about all of it is like it seems like people don't want to give people what they want, because that would be wrong, because we're in the military and you will take the assignment that I give you. And in that way, we're not maximizing the talent. But I'm psyched that you're retired.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of unknown, and so it's new territory, and I like the unknown. I like the kind of, not chaos, but I mean, I do like chaos, right? Like,
Yeah,
I do
obviously.
like chaos a lot. But it's kind of cool just seeing the unknown and next chapter kind of thing, and we'll see where it goes, Um, yeah, I kind of screwed myself, which what's funny is I screwed myself for retirement and prepping for retirement, even though I had the I had SOTF poking me in the chest continuously, going, "Hey, what's up?" And I would not intend, like, it wasn't intentional that I would kind of blow them off, but it was like I worked I worked up until I couldn't anymore,
Yeah.
and then I took terminal leave. Whereas what I should have done is a year out, I should have been more deliberate. Now, I couldn't skills bridge, right? And for folks out there that don't know what skills bridge is, it's uh, a program that the military has, and it's not a right, right? It's a privilege. You're not a guaranteed to get it or
Yeah.
anything like that.
It's a command. It's like
Right.
CTO, right? Like, your commander has to sign off on it and all that other stuff.
Right. But it's an internship program that you can, like, Jared Taylor gave me shit. He's like, dude, why didn't you skills bridge and just come work for Black Rifle or come work for, their media company? And I was like, dude, I didn't skills bridge at all. Like, I
That's
could have
funny because
skills
he
bridge.
told me not to do that.
I don't know, maybe it's a setup. Maybe he was setting me up or maybe he
I
was setting you up, I don't know.
I
But
think
I
he
mean,
just
like,
doesn't
I
like
could
me,
have
yeah.
skills bridge with plenty of casinos or any companies here in Vegas, right? And I just didn't get a chance to because I worked all the way up until the end and then I went on terminal. So, but that also means that I neglected, like, all the VA stuff and everything like that. So, um, it'll be good once there's kind of a bow on all of that, and I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it right now. Like, I gotta go get retiree ID card and, all that kind of stuff. So,
No, I did the same thing. My VA stuff wasn't done until after I got out. Good news is that the whole year, the first year after you get out, it still all counts as if you'd done it while you were in. I think
mm,
everything that you apply for a year in the year after is still service connected automatically. And then getting that ID card is pretty wild to
yeah.
turn over your thing. Was there any point in your career as like an airman or an NCO that you seriously considered getting out before now?
Um, early on, I had considered going officer. Um,
Mhm. I think
like
everybody does.
for a split, just for a split second, because at that point I just had money on my mind, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't making very much, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta." But then it was not realistic because I didn't have a degree at the time. Right? And when I say early on, I mean like 4 years in, kind of
Right.
thing. Is when I was like, I had already had 2 deployments in, and I'm like, "All right, cool," you know.
How
Um,
did you not
but
have money after your first 2 deployments if you weren't married and all that other stuff?
well, I ended up having money, but dude, I'm gonna tell you right now. Here, I went and I spoke at the at a ROTC thing, right?
Mm,
Up in
mhm.
Albany. And I was in an ATM, and dude in front of me is one of the cadets. And you know how it'll tell you your balance? Like, if you don't hit it, it'll tell you your balance, even if it's closed. You can't do anything else with it, but it'll still say the balance.
Yeah.
And he forgot to do that. And I looked at how much money he had in his checking account, and I'm like, dude, that's nuts. Like how much it was. I'm like, oh, well, let me go ahead and make sure that I close my thing out so that the cadets behind me don't realize how little money I have.
How
Like
poor I am.
it was crazy. Anyway,
Yes. What do you think it was like? It was probably, parents' money or whatever, and
I don't know. I mean, because
I don't know,
he's a cadet, so he's not getting paid for that. So I had to
or
imagine it's,
he started buying
but
homes when he was like 14 and
yeah.
flipping them. Yeah, he's just
But
like,
I will
yeah,
say, like,
I
I
figure.
met a couple of those dudes that work 2 jobs. Like this one dude, man. And he watches the show. He's from Haiti, and he's in Army ROTC, and he's like, and I thought he was on a scholarship. Like I made a poor assumption thinking that he was on a scholarship, academic or ROTC scholarship. He's like, no, man, I work 2 jobs just to pay for school so that and pay for school and live so that I don't have to get student loans. It's like, dude, that's awesome.
And he's doing the ROTC thing in hopes that he can get the ROTC scholarship. Like,
No, no,
because you
no.
have to have it for like the last 2 years or something, right?
No, he doesn't. He's a junior or senior. He's not hoping to get the ROTC scholarship. He's just doing ROTC and he's commissioning into the Army. But
Oh, but
he's
paid for
working
it.
2 jobs so
Jeez,
that he doesn't have he doesn't have to worry about scholarship and he doesn't have to go into debt. I'm like,
that's
those
wild.
kind of people are out there
Yeah.
doing that. And man, it was cool to talk to all those folks. But
Dude,
um
it's hard when you actually get to talk to people to buy into the entire generational bullshit. And I know we talk about it all the time, like, oh, this next generation. Like in my current job, like I got to talk to airmen, and I'm telling
yeah.
you, I met a 19-year-old a while ago, and the guy that I was working with, him and I just kept looking at each other like if I would have been like this kid when I was 19, I'd be way better off now than I am. Like it's just a whole bunch of it's nonsense, but. Um, yeah. So you thought about commissioning for like 25 seconds. What made you think that you weren't going to do it?
Um I just wanted to keep operating. I was having way too much fun. So I knew that
Yeah.
I was going to spend 10 years in that. Like that was my I'm gonna do 10 years, and then if I'm still having fun, I'll keep going. 10 years, still had fun, and I just kept re-enlisting after that. And like I said, I'd still be in now, really. Um, I just didn't want to uproot the family again.
Yeah. Aaron and I have been trying to force you out for years, and you just
Yeah, I know.
refused to do it. When you took the Nellis job, we're like, okay, so this is the last one. You're like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We're like, come on, man. You got to retire at some point. uh,
Yeah. Like I said, man, it's good. And what's coming next, if everything happens the way it should, will be good. And it'll be a good transition anyway. And I'll
yeah.
still be able to make an impact on the next generation of warfighters and future conflicts. So if that's the case and that's how it goes, then I'm here for it.
What do you think the hardest years were for you in your career?
Mm.
People
Um,
want to know. I'm pretty sure that people want to know because people like you.
I, I think, oh man, that's tough. I hadn't thought about that actually. Because you're talking about strictly professionally, right?
I mean, I know when I ask the question, and of course I'm a narcissist and I think about myself, it immediately goes to, well, things were pretty simple before I had a family. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Hmm.
Things got real tricky after that, but
Yeah,
um yeah, I mean just whatever the hardest years were.
I think personally, the hardest years were probably '09 to around 13. Um,
Mhm.
and that was just because I was on. I mean, I was always on the road anyway, but at that point, me and my wife had been together for 6 years, married for 3 in '09, and I mean, I did a SIF rotation for 6 months, came back for a month, deployed for 6 months, came back. Like, I mean, it was just it was constant, and it was good. Like, but all that everything that we would sweep under the rug, or actually getting to know each other, or getting to know my daughter and that kind of stuff, like it was so personally that was difficult. Professionally though, I don't know that I had an assignment that I was like, oh God, I don't know if I'm cut out for this.
Yeah.
Um, I would always, uh, just because I know myself well enough, I always give myself 6 months, and maybe 6 months is too long, but it's like if I'm hopping to a job or an organization that I'm not familiar with, like when I worked at SOCCENT in the J35, when I worked at SOCOM headquarters, like I didn't know what the hell I was doing getting up there, and there was no um, set. Hey, here's the battle rhythm. Here's what you do. Here's what's expected of you. You show up, and it's like, man, whatever you want to do, you can put as much work into this if you want. You can go hard charging into it. You can throttle back. You can make it whatever you want. So whenever it's something like that, I usually give myself about 6 months to figure things out, because whatever the dude, that I just replaced, his priorities may not be my priorities.
Yep.
You get a new commander coming in, they have different priorities. So, um, turns out all that the J35 needed was a team sergeant. There were a bunch of lieutenant colonels and a bunch of majors from Army, Navy, and Air Force that were action officers. They just needed a team sergeant. Funny enough, like
Yeah.
it's all they
That's what
needed, and some contract. And one of those contractors was the USASOC CSM,
Oh, dang.
right? Retired, like
Y
great dude. And even he's like, "Hey man, what you want me to do, man? I'm a contractor. Like I'm a nug." I'm like, so so that was wild. Um, I never had a bad assignment. I always thought I had good assignments.
you would think that because 'cause you're you. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, think about it. I was at the 2-1, the 21st,
Mhm.
21st as my first assignment. I went in Afghanistan, went into Iraq, just did TDYs, and then I went straight over to Mildenhall. at the 321st. I did 8 years over the 321st because I enjoyed myself so much, right? Because
Yeah.
I loved it over there. And then from there, I went to weapons school, spent 4 years there, and then I went to the 23rd SOCCENT, SOCOM headquarters, the 2-2, and then weapons school again. Like,
What was that like the first weapons school rotation as you guys were kind of building? You guys were building out the requirements, right, for the JTAC career
yeah, we were
program.
writing all the syllabus and validating it and then putting through students. It was good.
What kind of stress was that like though? All the academic type stuff.
It was tough and it was rough at the beginning in terms of the academics that we were providing because some of it we were building from scratch, some of it we were taking from at the time the basic JTAC course and then making it higher end. Um, and it was something that we had always gone TDY to Nellis to train at the weapons school, but we were never in that kind of student aspect until we got there and we started doing it. So it was trying to understand. Then you had current officers that were for us being there. You had also current officers that were not okay with us being there. Then you had retired generals who, even if a general is retired, he's still a general and he
Yeah.
still has power.
There's no
Like,
such thing as a retired
nope,
general.
no such thing. So, and you got those people that are against it and then for it, and so we were getting pulled, and all of us there are like, dude. At the time, we were like, dude, we don't care about your silly little patch. We just want the training. Like that's what we want, you
Yeah.
know. And then so understanding why the actual piece of cloth and Velcro matters, right? And how to utilize it is what we learned as well. But um, it was good because we weren't constrained. It was like, dude, it's y'all's show, man. Make it however you want, which is what I hope since we're building an aspect war wick right now, the
Yeah.
guys are like that was the thing is, they come to me and kind of, they brainstorm and do all that kind of stuff and then float some ideas by me. And I'm like, yeah, dude, sounds great. Like you guys are the experts in this. I'll help champion stuff for you. I'll be your biggest supporter. I'll fight whatever battles you need me to fight, but make it look how you think it needs to look. And whatever final form there is right now is not it'll look completely different in 2 years.
Yep.
Like the JTAC wick right now is unrecognizable to when we built it, and it's for the better.
Right. Yeah. I mean sometimes it's hard to let go, at least for me, right? Like, because like I've been a part of standing up a few different courses, and of course these things change over time. And some, like you have a lot emotionally invested into it, all the sweat equity and all that stuff, standing it
Yeah.
up. But I think over time you just realize that the fact that it still exists, that program still exists, even though it looks a whole lot different than what you started it as, is that's the giant win right there. Is getting that implemented and over the finish line, and then letting that next generation of folks come through and be like, oh, we can, because they're standing on a foundation at that point, and then it's a little bit. I don't want to say, yeah, I will say it's easier for them to do more with it than establishing that foundation in the beginning.
Well, they get to focus on the stuff that takes us into the future, whereas for us, we had to build the structure of the house. We had to build the
Yep.
foundation. So we were focused on that and making sure that's done right. And we totally cut corners in some ways. I mean, and that's kind of what AFSOC does, right? So the JTAC WIC is the only weapon school or the only WIC weapons instructor course that is two match comms, right? So even it's AFSOC and ACC, Air Combat Command and Air Force Special Operations Command. Um, the others are entirely Air Combat Command, to include the bomber assets, right, which would normally belong to Global Strike Command. They are actually Air Combat Command. Same with the 14th Weapons Squadron, which is AC 130, U 28, MC 130, and stuff like that.
ACC
CV
runs it.
22. It's still ACC. They fly AFSOC tails, right?
Hmm.
but their Magicom patch is ACC. The JTACs are the only ones where it's ACC and no kit and AFSOC. So it's a weird kind of thing, like for the chief that's there now, dealing with that, because it's like, well, hey, unfortunately, unfortunately, you can't manage those positions. You can't, they still work for you, duties at, and all that kind of stuff, but like their promotions and that kind of stuff follow that. But at the same time, AFSOC's really good about like whether it's good or bad. AFSOC is like, dude, whatever, we'll just throw more money at it. We'll just throw equipment at it,
Yeah.
and they're just like, what, like making it rain, right? Which is good because money makes things happen, but you also have to have the know-how and that kind of stuff. So, that's where it's really good that the JTAC WIC is ACC and AFSOC, because ACC's broke. AFSOC is not as broke. They have a lot of money, or they
What?
used to anyway, until this 8% cut. So,
Jeez, yeah. Who knows? I did want to ask about that. So when you're an AFSOC guy. You straight into the military, first time through the pipeline. At least you didn't have to go to the regular Air Force first.
right.
So AFSOC is very specific in the way that they do things and the culture and all that other stuff. So when you went there and you had to integrate with the ACC, what were the types of things that, like, did you have any moments where you're like, oh man, like that's actually the way ACC does this, maybe a little more deliberately, is like actually really positive stuff that you could take back to the AFSOC side of the house? Or does ACC just suck? You can say it, it's fine.
Um, it's different. Like, so the way ACC does things is like Big Blue Air Force, and so when you want to start talking about Big Blue Air Force dollars and programs and processes, like that's where they've got it good. Whereas I think AFSOC struggles, right? Because they're like, because we just throw money at stuff, and we're just
Yeah.
like, dude, whatever,
We just run to dad and SOCOM and be like, hey, we need a little more cash for this thing. They're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, sure, okay, no problem. So AFSOC doesn't seem, my experience, obviously, doesn't seem to know Air Force processes and programs as well as ACC. But then ACC is also kind of more regimented. I think ideally they probably do have more money than AFSOC, but AFSOC is so much smaller.
Yeah.
Like they probably have the exact same budget, but ACC has way more people and way more programs that they have to pay for, whereas AFSOC doesn't.
Yeah, it's a per
Like,
capita thing.
I don't know what the budgets are, but so I mean, so I learned Big Blue stuff there, and I'm still terrible at Big Blue stuff. Like the chief that's in there right now is a better Air Force chief than me, 100%. He spent, he's got time at Air Force Personnel Center.
Mhm.
You know, he spent a year and a half there, something like that. So he knows how assignments and stuff like that work way better than me. Like, so when it comes to Big Blue Air Force stuff, he is way better than I am. Now, he's probably better than me in most ways, right? Like, like I've got some inadequacies for sure, and I know I know for sure, because there's no way that this hasn't happened. But I'm sure that there have been some things that have people have brought to him now that I've been out of the seat and gone like, "Hey, just looking for, hey, what would you say to this?" Or like, "We were waiting on Peaches to do this and he never did," or like, "Peaches did it this way and how do you want it?" And he'd probably going like, "Dude, what the hell, man? Like, what did he actually do?" Like,
What
for
would you
sure
say
that
you
is
did here?
yeah, for sure that's crossed his mind, but
Like, I'm a people person. I do
yeah,
the people stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
and I like the chaos. If there's chaos, I can bring some order. But yeah, you expect me to sign a million papers in a day, or whatever? No.
No, no, and fortunately, the team up there at the front office was always amazing. So they kept me straight a lot. Hey, um, just so you know, like, hey, how come you're not at that meeting? What?
What? There's a meeting.
Yeah. So,
Bold choice, Chief. Not having a uniform on today, considering all the meetings you have. You're like, what? Oh,
oh
okay.
yeah, that did happen a couple times.
Of course it did.
Well, what would happen is I'd come in from working out, right? having not showered, I needed to grab my stuff, and I made the mistake of answering the phone or seeing an email or something like that, and I'd go like, "Oh, let me just take care of this, or let me take this call." Hour and a half later, I'm still like hair's wild and dried from sweat,
Yeah.
still unshaven. I'm still smelly, and
Like, you're
and
driving home in those clothes. Yeah, that's how it's gonna go.
I'll do. There were a couple times, especially toward the end, where Vice said, like, "Hey man, you coming to this meet?" Like he'd swing by my office because it was on the way out. He'd swing by and go like, "Uh, hey, you coming to this?" And I'm like, "Coming to what?" Like I
Exactly.
poked my head around the monitor and I'm like, "Coming to
Is
what?"
there a thing?
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, we got this thing over at the wing. You coming?" I'm like, "Oh God," I was like, "I'll meet you over there," Freaking, then I
Yeah.
just throw on a uniform real fast, and it's yeah,
I'm gonna take a 3-minute break real quick.
okay. Well, don't stop recording. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, that was a real thing that happened. Well, I guess since Trent left, probably for a potty break, have you heard about our Lord and Savior Barbell Apparel? Because they are here to save you. If you got quads like tree trunks and a rear end like a dump truck, what? Head over to barbellapparel.com. They still have their $99 deal going on right now, or at least as of the recording, and they will always have their lifetime guarantee. So that anything goes wrong with them, you end up tearing them or anything like that, whether it's manufactured or something that you did, they will replace it. If you are not an elite member, it's going to cost you shipping, but they'll get it taken care of. Um, but if you are an elite member, then all that's free, shipping's taken care of, and then you can also use that credit like as you're an elite member. You kind of build credit through there. You're paying monthly, and then you can save it all up, and then you buy a whole bunch of stuff. So they got jeans, chinos, havoc polos, graphic tees, workout shorts, everything. So barbellapparel.com. No promo code, just when you check out at the end of the survey at the end, just either click ONESREADY and tell them that you heard it from us, and if not, hit other and then type in ONESREADY and let them know that we sent you.
Did you
So
do an
yeah,
ad read so that while my camera was off, you could just put the logo
I sure did.
there? That's
Yep,
brilliant. Yeah. You're smarter
that's
than
what.
I am.
Yeah. The issue with that is I just have to make sure that I remember when I do the editing
It'll
because
just be
I
blank space and you by yourself just being like,
it's funny
"Barbell.
because
It's
yeah,
awesome."
I don't listen to every episode that I all the way through that I edit. I will kind of listen to the front end, the back end. If I see any gaps or anything like that, or if you guys start talking about something that you talked about, and then I'll go back through and listen to the whole thing. But most time I don't listen to the whole episode. Um,
Mm. No, it's hard. We record way too much stuff now. When we were doing like one a week, I think we were at the point where I think all of us were listening to it
yeah,
and just like we probably all hated ourselves so much more in the beginning of the podcast because we'd all listen to all the episodes we did and just yeah. I don't know about you, but like I would listen to it and be like, I am so stupid. And like,
yeah.
and I wander around in my thoughts. Like everything is a thought experiment to me, and I'll be like, I have no point. What I just wasted 2 minutes talking. I'm not even sure I said anything. You know what I mean? And I'm like arguing with myself, and you and Aaron are like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are you good?
Well, but the when we get a comment or I get done with an hour by myself, whether it's on a YouTube live or something like that, and I go, what? What did I say? Or if somebody leaves a comment about like, hey, no, I disagree, or yeah, right on, and I'm like, hmm,
Sweet.
what did I? Oh boy, But luckily, like this is why a lot of people like I try to get Phil Freeman on our pimp to do a live YouTube with me so he can tell stories. He's like, nope, I'm not doing live. I can. The recruiter Megan that we just had on, she's like, nope, I ain't doing live. Now Ransom, who you met,
Yeah.
she agreed to do it live. She's like,
Oh,
I'm super scared. I'm nervous about it. Um,
it's
but
just a
yeah, okay,
conversation.
I'll
It's
I'll
fine.
I'll do it.
Yeah. We won't put you in a bad spot. How has doing the podcast affected? So we've been doing the podcast for what over 5 years now,
Hmm.
and you just barely retired. So like the last 5 years, basically of your career, you were also Peaches from One's Ready on the internet. What were the effects of that? And did it change like the way that you did your job or the way that you saw things at all?
I don't I don't think it impacted or changed the way I approach people or changed the way I did anything, because I always wanted to, like, hey, understand that I represent myself, represent the Air Force, represent my community, and I want to do it. Now, did I approach or interact every interaction the way I should have or the way that I preach? No, because I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to get it 100% right every single time. But um, I'd like to think that it was a positive impact. There was only a few times where somebody would bring it up in terms of like, it was always to embarrass me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there were a couple times where somebody will get back from deployment and his his section or something like that, or it would go like, "Hey, he's actually a fan," um, and so as soon as I find that out, I'd go over there and go, "Hey, man, what's up?" And then they'd get super red, embarrassed, and stuff like that. So that have happened several times. Or I'd get some people to go, "Hey, man, listen to the podcast, big fan." Like this happened at the hospital the other day. Like the kid that checked me in,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
he comes
weird.
back and he's like, "Yeah, verify your date, name, date of birth." And I do it, and he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I've been watching the podcast for the last 4 years." I'm like, "Oh," and here I am, like changing, getting into an operating gown and stuff like that. I'm like, "Man, I'm thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks for the support." It's got to be weird, like it's just weird, couldn't knowing like, all right, well, he's taking care of me. He's which
Yeah.
I'm happy about, but it is weird.
Well, it's like, and as part of it's like, oh, well, you know way more about me than I know about you.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's kind of weird. But
yeah. Um,
I
so
did
I
run into that in the beginning a little bit though at work. It would be it was mostly Schindler too when we were both at the wing together. He'd be like, "Hey, am I talking to One's Ready Trent or am I talking to Massart Trent or whatever or Trent?" You know, like the three versions of me. And I'd be like, have I ever taken a conversation that we've had in this office and like run to the podcast and been like, Major Schindler said, you know, like, but
yeah,
I think it took everybody else a lot longer. It was weird. It was like, it was weird in the beginning because I felt like I lost, like, people were like, I can't trust you anymore. And I'm like, or they just had the question, right? They had a lot of questions about how it works. But it took a while for everybody to find that equilibrium where it's just like, hey, like, we are trying to do the right thing. I'm not going to turn heel and like turn around and start naming names and doing terrible things because yeah, we're still friends, right? I thought we were friends at work. Are we not friends anymore? Like, it was odd.
yeah. It's I never got that. I never got that. Hey, who am I talking to? Or risk of like going and saying something. If there was something was said, and I'm like, ooh, that would be good to mention or something like that, that I would ask and go like, hey, like, is this sensitive? Like, are you the only person that knows this? So that if I said something that it would come back to you or, you know, so I did have a couple of those conversations, but like even the times I found it the most weird is when my own coworkers would listen to the podcast and go like, and I'm like, oh, God, like what,
Yeah.
so and some of the folks that I worked with just recently that I just left listen occasionally, and so it is weird
It's
in
just
that
hard.
regard.
Yeah, now it's hard when they're like, "Hey, remember on this episode?" And it's like, "No, I
Yeah,
absolutely don't." Like, if you tell me like the conversation I'll remember conversation. It's like remembering faces versus names, right? But if they're like, "Hey, episode 268," I'm like, I'm gonna stop you there. I have no idea what we talked about. Like, we're releasing what 2, 3 episodes per week now,
yeah,
and yeah, we've been doing it for a while, but it's good. No, I mean nothing but love for all the people out there that listen. It's just is it. I think sometimes people would be like, "Oh, it's got to be easy to do a podcast," and it kind of is, and it's kind of also really difficult. Like, I've never almost quit something any more in my life than this podcast.
yeah. I recorded with Grimsey News yesterday,
Yeah,
um, and it was a great conversation. At least I enjoyed it. I don't know if the audience will enjoy it, but I enjoyed it. Um, and he said we talked about two different things. One is he has recently, like in the last year, started working out and going to the gym
Oh,
because he
nice.
felt himself getting, unhealthy, and he just didn't feel well and stuff like that. And he was talking about how difficult that was. He goes, "I've quit everything in my life. I've just quit." He goes, "My entire life, anytime I would pick something up or start something and it wasn't easy, I'd quit my
Mm.
entire life." He goes, "And so I got tired of it. I got tired of quitting. And so now I force myself to go to the gym. I do these things." He goes, "Now I'm from, I think he said 275 down to 235 or 245 or something like that." He goes,
Jeez.
"And I'm still going." And so he said that. And then when we started talking about advice, he goes that. But then we started talking about, like, dude, you just got to hit record. Like, if you want to do a podcast, you want to do YouTube, you want to make funny skits on TikTok and X and stuff like that. One of the hardest things is just to hit record, and
Yep.
then add a layer onto that is a live. Hit record for a live.
Yep.
Like, that's, you just got to do it, and it's daunting, right? But you just do it, and you got to be willing to accept the spears that you're going to get and the criticism that you're going to get, and realize, like, one, some of it may be valid, some of it's not. Like, you know, some people are going to say you're a fat piece of shit. Some people aren't.
Yep.
It's just,
It's
yeah.
fine. Someone accused us of being on steroids the other day, and it was the greatest day of my life. Like
Yeah.
that one comment's going to keep me going for the next 3 years. You know what I mean?
It is funny because they think that that was meant to be a slight at you guys too. Like, just a bunch of fucking roided out has-beens or something like that, whatever it was. Bro, did you say I'm roided? I look roided? Like, oh,
Yes.
yes. Oh man,
It was
I
the
look like
greatest
I've got
ever.
traps for days. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. If our Marcus Aurelius Instagram friend, if you said that about him, I'd be like, yeah, he's not, but like that dude's a monster. But like, I'm barely fitness. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever. If this is what you think roids look like you got a long way to go on your own fitness journey there, buddy. You know?
Yeah, and then you should also see some of the monsters that we work with.
Oh my gosh, just yeah. I have to attach myself to some kind of like identity, like I'm a good problem solver or something, because I'm not competing with those dudes physically ever.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm a smart guy. They're like, are you though? I'm like, I don't know, but like that's all I got
I got
compared to
here.
you, bro.
Got here. Yeah. No, I actually am interested to hear your and Trent, yours and Aaron's take on the
Yeah,
Grimsy.
because you guys talked
Dude,
about
and that's
our
one thing I kept
TBI
fucking
friend a
up
little bit,
too.
right?
I kept messing up his name.
Well, Grimesy is like a name that's like deep embedded in your head, and it makes
From the
sense.
UK.
Yeah,
Right. And we have some friends that have names like that, so we call him Grimesy. So he's like, it's Grimsy. I'm like, shit.
you American piece of crap.
Yeah.
Okay, Grimsy. What's a Grimsy?
But yeah. Well,
So
anyway,
the last
I
thing
felt
is,
like
I
I got
guess,
interviewed this entire time. I don't know why
yeah,
that
but
is.
you have to finish on advice. You know, you just got out. You're kind of in you're less than 48 hours into the post retirement official chaos that is your life. You have to give advice to all the folks out there that are looking at retirement or looking down a big change or anything like that. What should they do?
What should they do? Can I be the man? I don't know. I'm
This is
supposed to be asking these questions.
this is the Peaches post retirement interview. You gotta
All right, ask it one
maybe
more
it's too
time.
early.
Ask it one more time.
People are looking at a big change in life or retirement, anything like that. Like from your perspective, like what is your advice? I think what you would start with a year out, actually start planning for all your shit.
Yeah, I think if you have the ability to forecast it, you should plan it out and take it seriously and not go like, I'll figure it out when I get there. Like, don't do that. But kind of like what I said, and this probably has nothing to do with the actual questions you're asking me, but Kind of like what I said in terms of exploring stuff and just being willing to be uncomfortable. Just hit that record button or just hit the go button, whatever it happens to be. Don't dwell on it. Don't be scared of it. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, you definitely learn something from it. So, if this ONESREADY thing doesn't work out, because we end up like, out of content or canceled or just like, man, we just don't have the time because of life and other jobs, then man, I've learned so much from doing this, about myself, about media, about people, and what it means to them and how to communicate. I've learned uh, like countless things from 25 years in the military, being a combat controller. Like, I mean, just it's made me who I am. And that's the thing is you see on social media, you see an Elon Musk being a billionaire and running SpaceX and Tesla and all these other companies. You see um, Bezos, you see all these people that are and they're not even at the end, right? Joe Rogan, not at the end. They're just at a point now where they made it, where they had all these failures. And, it wasn't a trajectory like that, right? It was a failure way down and then up high. And it still goes like that. So
Yeah.
you got to understand, and that's the bad thing that social media does, is it shows you the end product or shows you all the good things, um, instead of all the failures and all the not great selfies or the not great whatever, the terrible angles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Life's not a highlight reel.
No, but social media is.
There it is. All right. Hey, man, I had a really good time talking about your 25 years and all the stuff today. Appreciate you being on the podcast. Everybody check out CardoMax and Barbell. Head on over there and let them know that we sent you. We sent you from onesready.com. Head over there. Also, Aaron is real big on the link trees. He built those. So if you don't go and check those out, he's going to be very upset with you, and he knows where you live. So head over to onesready.com, pick yourself up some merch, check out the site. And as always, like, subscribe. And if you want to become a member, do it. We think it's worth it. Hopefully it's worth it. The more members we get, the more members only content we're going to put out there. So until next time, we appreciate all listening, and we'll catch you later.
I don't.